Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our 11th annual Business as a Calling Symposium. We are very pleased to have Mr. Harry Kaplan with us today, and I'm sure you're going to be enjoying his remarks. We're going to begin with a prayer, and then I'll give Harry's bio so you understand what his background is, and then he will give his address. And then after that, we'll have opportunities for you to ask questions of him, and I encourage you to please do so, because that's one way of having him address maybe the issues that you have in mind or the kinds of topics that you're interested in. And then at the end of that, we've got a presentation or something we're going to give him, and we can then disperse, okay? Let us pray. This is taken from a piece by David White, who's a rather prominent poet. And I think it speaks to who we are today when we talk about business as a calling, as a profession, as a vocation. The human approach to work can be naive, fatalistic, power-mad, money-grubbing, unenthusiastic, cynical, detached, and obsessive. But it can also be selflessly mature, revelatory and life-giving, powerful in its long-reaching effect, and fulfilling in the way it gives back to the individual and to society as much as it has taken. For almost all of us, it's both, okay? So it's a sky full of light and dark with all the varied weather of an individual life blowing through it, the ups and downs, the opportunities gained, the opportunities missed. To have a firm and healthy vision and set out boldly in our work is to make a pilgrimage of our labors to understand that the consummation of work lies not only in what we have done, but in who we have become while accomplishing our duties. It's part of our growth path. Our aim in our quest for business as a calling, which is the theme of our center and of this symposium, is to ponder these truths and to realize that our Creator is calling us to view work as a building of the human spirit and of building the kingdom. What we do in our professions is to provide our families and our neighbors, near and far, with the means to live decent and happy lives. Companies that have people that have that in mind do very well, and they do good. Harry Kaplan has exemplified that view during his career, in part as a result of his years as a UD student. He did both a bachelor's and an MBA degree here. We are grateful to Harry for being with us and ask God to continue to bless him. We ask also, dear God, that our minds and our hearts be open to receive Mr. Kaplan's message, to consider it deeply, and in the coming days to put it into practice. You who live and you who love us forever and ever. Amen. Harry Kaplan holds a Bachelor of Science degree and an MBA degree from the University of Dayton. He is an executive with 35 years of experience in finance, equipment leasing, and corporate lending. Currently, Harry is president of the specialty finance businesses of Frost Bank, which is a $26 billion bank based in San Antonio, Texas. Previous to that, Mr. Kaplan served as leading positions in operations, management, marketing, and finance. He was with the NCR Corporation and with the NCR Credit Corporation for part of that. and he was with First Security Leasing Company for some of those years. And finally, before he went to Frost Bank, he was with Wells Fargo Equipment Finance. Mr. Kaplan joined Frost Bank in 2002 as president of Frost Leasing with the goal of expanding the division and increasing product and services targeted to the bank's commerce and other customers. Recently, Harry has been assigned leadership responsibilities for the asset-based lending institutions and businesses of the bank. During the 12 years that he has been with Frost, Harry has developed a full range of lease products to provide customers with a variety of equipment and financing functions. This diverse product line, coupled with a high level of personal service, resulted in Frost growing into one of the top 50 bank leasing companies in the United States. Harry has also been very involved in industry associations, an active member of the Equipment Leasing and Finance Association, chairman of the Finance Institution Business Council since 2006, chairman of the annual Finance Institutional Conference, and he just completed a second term as a member of its Board of Trustees. It gives me very great pleasure to introduce you to Harry Kaplan.
Good evening. I have to tell you, this is quite a privilege for me. I have not been back to the campus in quite some time, and when I got a call from the dean about, hey, I happen to be down in Texas, could we come by and visit you? I started to think, and I said, gee, what's that all about? And you know, we have this, those of us from the Northeast have cynical minds, and I said, let me think. I've been following the school for a lot of years. The quality of the students has increased dramatically. Higher grade points, much more accomplished. The curriculum has gotten better. And all of the professors have gotten much higher ratings and, of course, have much more credentials. And I said, you know, I'm a little worried about this. He may be coming to take one of my degrees back. But he didn't. He just came by, and what we call in Texas was a howdy call. And he just stopped in. We started to visit for a while. We started talking about things that are happening with the school and culture and how ethics and philosophies were coming into play. And I said, gee, let me explain to you why I picked this company that I'm working for now and what it's about. And he said, wow. He says, that kind of dovetails a lot with what we're trying to do with some of our curriculum. And I said, okay. Next thing I know, he calls and asks me if I'd come out and speak with all of you, and here I am. So I think you're going to get a little different twist on business from all of this. But I encourage you, and some of you already have what we call our blue book at the bank. I have others that we'll give out later. But it is sort of our Bible, if you will, of how we do business. And I know a lot of companies have these sort of things, but I can assure you not everybody follows them like we do. But I'm going to give you a perspective that kind of opens up wider surface and then brings back down to the specifics of this one company. And by all means, ask questions if you'd like. At the end, we're going to have a big Q&A session. Those of you on the far side, please ask your questions. I'll probably be able to hear them, and I'll repeat them to the group and give you answers. Because if it's on your mind or you don't understand something, the best way to get information is to ask. So let me start. And what we're going to talk a lot about is why business. So why get into business? Okay, you're here, you're part of it, and you're saying to yourself, it's very diverse. There's a lot of things that go on in business. We have marketing, we have sales, we have accounting, we have finance, we have IT. There's a lot of diversity in here, a lot of diversity by industry. It's intriguing. How does it work? Why does it work the way it does? It's not as simple as people think, so it's got an intrigue to it. It's interesting. It's interesting because you're challenged. You're trying to find out why things are a certain way. It just has an intuitive appeal to you. It's challenging. It's challenging, particularly for people who are competitive, because there's always trying to win. How do we win? How do we do better than our competition? How do we get people to come to us, buy our products, use our services? Because plenty of other people are offering it, and maybe they're not buying from you. The question is, how can we do that? So it's always a lot of challenges to meet. It's rewarding. Everyone's going to get rich, right? We're all going to have 2 Porsches. We're going to have a yacht. We're going to have a house in Florida, right? Yeah, a couple of you are smiling. I know that's on your agenda. Let me tell you something, that if you work for money, you're going to be soon dissatisfied. Money's a very shallow reward, regardless of how much you have. Not that I have that much, but it is. Business is fun. It really is fun. If you don't have fun doing it, you probably shouldn't be doing it. And I think the fun part is the part people don't necessarily get, but it is important to have it. So these are some of the reasons I think why people get into business. The other reason is probably from your parents. Hey, I'm paying to send you to school. You better get a job when you get out, right? So I need a career. And business is a good place to have a career. There's a lot of people with one. My little typist down here. What does it take to be successful? Notice she's going to keep typing until I press the button and move her forward. But I think one big factor is intelligence. You all have the intelligence. You're here in the school. To get here, you had to have a level of intelligence to be successful. You don't have to be brilliant. You just have to be smart. You have to work hard. And most of your work will go unnoticed. You'll do a lot of work and no one will know how much work you put into it. But that's going to be part of the reward. You have to be motivated. Motivation comes from within. It doesn't come from other people. I can't give you a great speech and motivate you. I can't bring in a great motivational speaker and motivate you. They may get you excited for the moment, but they won't motivate you to do the hard work. You have to motivate yourself. And you have to have integrity. Beyond all else, this is what defines you. And if you're going to be successful, you're going to have integrity. People who have long-term success have a high degree of integrity. You're not going to show me, and I defy you to do this, someone who has many, many years of success and has a high degree of integrity. Some of that might be defining success, but if you define it on a material basis, maybe, but not truly successful. And integrity is something that you have to spend a lot of time thinking about as to what the values are that you are. Integrity is really an adherence to a strict moral or ethical code. That's just a straight definition of it. So you have values. Your values have been cultivated by your family, your friends, your education. You're at a school that has a very high value. So you place significance to values. So how do you find a company that's going to gel with your values? There's a lot of companies, many, many thousands of companies all over the country. How do you pick them? Hey, there's cool companies. Nike's a cool company. You know, they give you nice clothes to wear all the time. You get cool looking shoes. You get to hobnob with celebrities and sports figures. That's cool. You know, that's a cool company. There's old companies. Hi, we're 150 years old. okay? You're old. But old has value. There's complex companies. IBM's a particularly complex company. And the reason I know that is I own their stock and I still can't figure it out. Because they're constantly changing, so they're complex. There are boring companies. Hi, we sell fertilizer. Anyone excited about that? I doubt it. There are big companies. Shell Oil, worldwide, big. Walmart, very large. There's exciting companies, and there are fun companies. Any of you ever flown Southwest Airlines? No one's flown Southwest Airlines? Oh, yeah, I know you did. Everybody flies Southwest Airlines. I'm on their Christmas card list. That's how much I fly them. But they're an exciting, fun place to work. They dress casually. It's getting close to Halloween. When you go to their gates, they're going to have them all adorned with Halloween stuff. They're going to have all their attendants wearing costumes. When you get on the plane, they're going to give out free drinks on your birthday. It's just a fun thing to do, fun place to work. So it's a fun company. Those are all different kinds of companies that are out there. But I'm going to introduce you to a concept that's going to help you decide which of those characteristics are important and which aren't important. And I'm going to submit to you that everything I just showed you doesn't really have a lot of importance. This is a concept that Brother Victor showed me in a book. I already knew this, but the book helped me kind of clarify it and categorize it. And there are companies who focus on living assets, and there are companies that focus on non-living assets. Okay, what does that mean? Living assets, people, and environment. Now, environment isn't the climate. Environment is the area that you work in, okay? The communities you work in, the industry you work in, the structure you operate within that you share with others. That's the environment you're in. So that's living asset companies, people and environment. Non-living asset companies have a focus on more material type things, like facilities. We have more branches than any other company. For some reason that people think that's important, they do it. We have the largest fleet of trucks and trailers in the world. Okay, it's an equipment focus, a non-living asset, but they feel that's important. We have 22 consecutive quarters of increasing earnings per share, capital. We have a steady progression of net income. That is a focus on profits. These are the non-living assets. Living system companies believe profit is the means to fulfilling their mission in serving stakeholders. Now think about that for a minute. A living system company believes profit is the means, not the end, but the means to serve. And I'll get a little more clarity on that. Living system companies have a very strong bias towards human rights, eco-efficiency, not in the form of your thinking of maybe electricity or water, but efficient in the environment that they operate in. Living system companies are excellent corporate citizens. And we'll get a little more into that. Living system companies know that life-affirming behavior inspires among people, its employees, loyalty, learning, and innovation. If you work for a company that truly believes in living systems, you'll be loyal to that company, you'll seek to learn more, and you'll be innovative and collaborative to do more things. And your customers develop trust in you because of that. Your customers know, because they buy your products, how you are, and they trust you. So, I've talked a little bit about a living system company. How do you find one? Okay, kind of sounds like something you're interested in. How am I going to find one? Reputation. You can always check out somebody's reputation. And that's just not going on social media, right, and hearing what the last guy said about it. Here's a little bit of research. Remember, you're committing your time here to this company, so you want to know about it. And it's not just asking the last person who got hired there, what do you think of it? Well, they're going to say it's great. They wouldn't have went there themselves. How do you check out the reputation? It's history. What kind of a history does this company have? Well, we've been around 2 years, and look what we've done. Okay. Good. But what's the lengthy history here? Is it 140 years old and never lost any money, never laid off any people? That's a bigger sense of history. What's the philosophy of the company? Now, some of you have the little blue book, and we talk about our philosophy in there. And you can read that. Don't read it now, please, because it'll take you a minute to find it. But, and I'll get to it in just a second. But the philosophy of the company, what it means, what it stands for, is going to be well articulated. And every company is going to have one of these, because a lot of companies hire good people to put these kind of things together for them. But their actions will tell you whether they really believe in that philosophy. Actions always speak louder than words. There's a lot of ways to put spin on things in this world, and there's a lot of ways to communicate things to people, but the actual actions tell you everything. So these are 4 areas to explore as you're looking for that living asset company you want to work for. They really reflect on the core values of the organization. You have core values. Like I said, they've been honed through family, through church, through religion, through your education. And those core values, you want to be able to go to a place that respects that, and also where it's going to help you be successful. In that blue book, you see the philosophy of our bank. And I got to tell you, I've worked at 5 companies. 2 of those companies were bad choices. 2 of those companies were acquired. And I can tell you that for sure that when you're acquired, you are the redheaded stepchild at the dinner table. No matter what they say, we really want you, yada, yada, yada. They are glad to have you, but you're never going to be at the head of the table because you've been acquired. They didn't groom you. They didn't seek you out to come there. You should have been laid on their lap. So when you're acquired, and you can have a career as acquired, you're never going to be as impactful as you would be if you were with a company and you grew up through that company. So 2 companies, which were bad choices, 2 companies got acquired. And in the last acquisition, this bank came to me and said, hey, we'd like you to come to Texas. I was living in the West. It's not because I like Texas humidity that I decided to go to Texas. That I said, okay, I knew you folks, and I spent a lot of time talking to them and found out that I had a perfect match with my values and my way of going about doing business was a perfect match for this company. And its philosophy is, and I'll read it to you, we will grow and prosper, building long-term relationships, very important point, relationships, based on high-quality service, high ethical standards, safe and sound assets. Remember, we're a bank, so our assets, keeping them safe is very critical. A lot of banks have lost that focus over the years. We will grow and prosper, opening statement. We refers to our functioning as a team. We do everything together. Does that mean we all like each other? No, not really. What we understand, and we're respectful to other people's wishes and their business side, and we work together as a team. We build long-term relationships. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. The words are easy. The execution is extremely difficult. Long-term relationships, and I want you to think about a relationship you have in life, friend, family, maybe some of you are married. How does that relationship work? They're added to and they're revitalized. How do you add to a relationship? You call a friend. I've been back in Dayton for many years. I called a friend. I'm meeting him tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Have a drink and just catch up, keeping the relationship going. How do you have a relationship with a customer? We want our customer relationships to extend beyond one product. You may borrow money to finance equipment, but we'd also like to handle your private wealth management. We'd also like to handle your employee 401k. We'd also like to have you buy insurance from us. We really believe that relationships are deepest when they're multi-product. And if you start a relationship with one product and that customer has a good experience, they're more than likely to come back to you for another product. Think of things that you do in your life. I use a very simple example of a dry cleaner. Okay, I take my clothes to the same dry cleaner all the time. Not because there's anything special about that dry cleaner, except when I spill my Starbucks on my tie, driving in the car, they get it out. When I come back from a big trip like this and my suits are all wrinkled and messy, they get them all right, and they get them back to me when I want. They call me by name when I walk in the door, say thank you when you leave. I don't know what they charge me to do a shirt. I don't know what they charge me to do my suit. I know you're saying, it's easy for you to say you got a lot of money, you don't care. Well, I kind of do. I could probably get it done less expensively, but am I going to get with people I trust? And this is someone I have a relationship with, obviously. So relationships to us are key. We're key. To give you put it in perspective, we're a $26 billion bank. We're only in Texas. Our headquarters in San Antonio, and I live in Dallas and San Antonio. Soon I'll be totally in Dallas. But we're in every major city, where 85% of the people are, but we're only in Texas. Someone asked me earlier, well, how come you're only in one place? 2 reasons. One is there's 25 million people there, so there's a lot going on. 2, and more importantly, we can control our culture and our philosophy better within a smaller geographic area. If we bought a bank in Illinois, not to pick on Illinois, we'd have a very, very hard time transporting our culture to Illinois, because they're used to doing business another way, people around them do business another way, they don't know us, and they have a very hard time making that transition. And in all likelihood, that acquisition wouldn't be a success. And this is a discussion we have all the time amongst us in senior management in the bank, what we should be doing and how we can create relationship. We can always buy market share. We can always buy customers. But if we really created something that's consistent with our philosophy and our culture and our people. See, we view people as everything. You got to remember what we sell. We're a bank. We sell a commodity. Commodity's money. That's our commodity. Now, the good news is everybody wants it, right? But why do they pick us over somebody else? Because they see a value with us that they don't get somewhere else. And that starts the relationship. And we build on that. And one of the portfolios that I run, 70% of our customers do repeat transactions with us. So I kid my salespeople. Sometimes their job's too easy. But they do that by choice. I'm sure they shop around to make sure our rates are okay, but they're quite happy with the service they get. Service quality is, everybody talks about it. Everyone says they measure quality, and there's just a million ways to do that. Our goal is very simple. We deliver value which is more than is expected. And I'll give you a good example. I always answer my own phone. Most other senior executives at the bank do the same thing. And I've had customers call has gone through our help desk, and they wanted to talk to someone in my group, and there wasn't anyone around. And we always make sure you get to talk to a person. So the call works its way up to me, and I answer the call, and the person says, who are you? I said, my name's Harry Kaplan. He says, what do you do? And I said, well, I can tell he's a little agitated, right? I said, well, I work in this group. And he said, well, I got a problem. He said, I need to talk to somebody who can help me. And I said, well, I don't know if I can help you. He said, well, what do you do? He said, I'm the president. Silence. Literal silence. And I'm waiting. And I'm kind of chuckling to myself, saying, okay, I kind of really caught him off guard, because he's shocked that he got the president to talk to him, because he's calling about something erroneous on his last invoice, and he thinks that we're trying to rip him off or something or other. And I finally stopped the silence, because I didn't feel like I wanted to persecute him, and started asking him questions, and he started explaining to me what the problem was. And I said, well, unfortunately, I don't know all the specifics, and I can't really look them all up. I mean, I can, but by the time it takes me to get through all the systems, 5 other people work around here can have it done in 5 minutes. So let me get them on the phone, and we'll talk about it. And we got it done. He got put him in touch with the right person. They resolved it. And a couple hours later, I called him back, and I said, okay, how did it work out? And again, it was silence. And I'm like, oh, maybe we didn't do this right. And finally, I said hello again. And he said, I'm taken that you have answered your phone and you have called me back to find out if the thing was resolved. And I said, well, I'm glad I could do that. I hope everything's fine. He's just fine. He said, you know, he says, I'm a customer for life. So I went home happy because it made an impact on one person's life. But the bigger point was that we delivered a service that is well above what people expect. And when you do that, they come back. And that's what you want. We believe we have high ethical standards, okay? And the banking business has not been known for its high ethical standards in the last 7 or 8 years. If you ever meet our chairman, you do not want to get him started on this subject, because you don't have enough time to hear his answers. But the business got out of hand. Banking business is a business of trust. And you should be able to trust your financial institutions to take care of your assets and to look out for your best interest. Many of them haven't, because they've been focused on the non-living assets of profit and gain. And that has gotten people into a lot of trouble. So badly, I don't know, some of you are young, you may not know this, but around '09, the government had to bail out all of our larger banks. Literally bail them out. Because if they didn't, the financial system would have collapsed. In our opinion, they should have let them go, but they're still around. There is something there that says, hey, you did the wrong things. And they gave them TARP money. TARP is just an acronym for a government program, which bailed out all these banks. We never took TARP money. We didn't take it for 2 reasons. One, we didn't need it. We didn't need to be bailed out. We didn't do anything that caused us to be in trouble that we needed to be bailed out. 2, it was very expensive money. I actually was part of the review team, looked at the analysis that said how much this money was going to cost. And third of all, we didn't want to be beholden to the government. We just want to run our business. You know, we just want to run our business and we'll be fine. We don't need your money and your strings to tell us what to do. And so we didn't take it. Politically, from a Washington, D.C. standpoint, it probably wasn't the right thing to do, because they wanted all the banks of any consequence to take this TARP money and be part of the program. And we didn't. But it was the right thing to do. Our stakeholders would have had to take money at a much higher price, and we would have had a lot more restraints. So we felt we were doing our shareholders, our customers, and our employees a disservice by doing it. And so we didn't. So we maintain a high ethical standards. We do what we think is right. Now, rather than what policy or procedure says. Very important distinction. We're a regulated bank. As you might guess, there's a zillion policies and procedures that we have to follow. And we're a publicly held company, so we got the SEC and the auditors and all those other people. And so there's a bunch of rules we have to follow there too. And we follow all of those. But what we allow people to do is the right thing. Many times I get into situations where we have a problem because someone went ahead and did something that was wrong. When I talk to them, I usually find that what they knew and what they were trying to do was the right thing. We stand behind those people. No one ever loses their job for that. No one ever gets it held against them that they tried to do the right thing. Now, if you keep making the same mistake over and over again, we're going to have another conference. But the point really is that if you do the right thing, you have the best intentions, we have your back. You don't have to worry about it because we value doing the right thing. I'll give you another story. One of my customers came from Houston. He's opened a facility in Northeast Ohio in a place called Strasburg, which is by Akron, Canton. And I flew in yesterday to have dinner with him and then view the new facility that he's putting in. While we're having dinner last night, I asked him what was one of the more meaningful things that caused you to do what you do in business and be as aggressive as you are and be as successful as you are. And he said, when I was 19 years old, I was working for a company who did trench work. And I was in college, and I was working, and my equipment broke down, and I was in a place called Nitro, West Virginia. I don't know if any of you know where Nitro, West Virginia is. I do, because my wife's from West Virginia. And I didn't know what to do, so I called back to my boss, who was on vacation. So I don't know what I'm going to do now. Equipment's broken, my boss isn't here, and they said, wait a minute, we'll connect you to someone. So they connected them to the head of the company. And he was just intimidated by this. Okay, now I'm talking to the head of the company. I understand he's a real blistery guy, and he's going to be really demanding of me and everything else. And the head of the company said, well, tell me what the problem is. And he ran him through the problem. He says, well, what do you think we should do? And he gave him the answer as to what he thought he should do. And he said, I'm not so sure that's the right answer. But the owner said to him, do what you think is right. And whatever it is, whether it's right or wrong, I'm behind you. And he said, those words stayed with me through my whole business career. He's in his 50s now. And he says, I always felt that's what motivated me to do things, because I knew if I did the right thing, the consequences would never be bad. And to have a boss who would stand behind me like that just gave me such great confidence. He told me he went to, actually the fellow passed away about a couple months ago, he went to his funeral. He told that story to his widow, and of course his widow was very emotionally moved by it, and so was the rest of his family, because that truly was their dad and their husband, and that's the way he was. Even though his appearances didn't seem that way, he very much had a high standards, and his standards were high, he was demanding of his people, but as long as they were doing the right thing, he was behind them. Not all companies do that. Like I said, we're in the banking business. Safe and sound assets. It's very important to us. We're in the risk business. We have to be paid, I have to be repaid 99.2% of the time on every extension of credit I give. I can only lose 0.8% of the time. I have to manage risk. Do I lend you money, or do I lend her money? Neither one of you are putting your hand up, so I guess you don't want it. I have to figure out how to have lending procedures and policies that support our philosophy of safe and sound assets, so that the investors in our bank get a fair return because we don't take losses. We don't have a rogue trader in London losing billions of dollars. We may have a rogue somebody around. I haven't found him yet. But that just doesn't happen. We always take the long-term view. Long-term, many years. This bank's 148 years old. And we've never lost money. because we're always looking to the future. We're not looking at quarterly earnings. We're not looking at this year's earnings. We want to make sure we have high quality. And when you have high quality, when the economy tanks like it did in '09, and the government says, hey, we'll come and bail you out, you can say, I don't need to be bailed out. Let's talk a little bit about integrity. That's one of our core values. And if you have that blue book in there, it's got little things and it talks about it. And I've done some excerpts from each of those little core value points. Those of you who don't have them, I've got some extras around here if you're interested at the end. But our integrity is broken down and redefined in some detail. And towards our people, we keep our word. If we tell you it's going to happen, it'll happen. If we tell you something, it'll work. We have conflicts. Every organization has conflicts. But we get after them and we resolve them quickly. We don't allow people to backstab, talk behind people's back. Just not acceptable. Someone comes into me to complain about something or other, and it's because Mary or Johnny did this to them. I could care less. I don't even listen to that. Won't even entertain the conversation. New people do that. Long-term people don't do that because they know that's not how we deal. We deal with things. If we have to do something difficult, we do it face-to-face. Bad news is always delivered face-to-face. One of my new responsibilities was to take over a division, and after a few months, it was pretty clear to me that this division was a mistake. It shouldn't be there. I had discussions with several other people in the bank at very higher levels, our board, our chairman and CEO, our president. We talked about it long and hard and decided that the best thing we could do was exit this business. And we have exited that business. I told them in November. I started the process in November of last year. I finished it a month ago. You can see because of that time frame, what we didn't do was say, we're ending this business, here's your check and your separation package, and good luck to you. We slowly honored the people and the customers to tell them we were exiting the business. We slowly took the customers away in time. They paid off, found other places to go. We even helped them find other places to go. The employees understood that we weren't going to be adding much to this business. We were going to be reducing it. Many of them relocated within other parts of the bank. Many of them, about a half of them went to other companies, and they slowly left on their own terms over months. Now, one poor lady who was my controller, she ended up getting pregnant right after we made this announcement. Well, if you're pregnant, I don't care what the law says, you're going to have a hard time finding a job. And she didn't. So what we did was we kept her, let her go on. She had her child. She went on maternity leave. While she was on maternity leave, I worked with our HR people. She came back. She really didn't have a job to come back to because we closed it down. We let her come back, and within 3 weeks, we had another job for her. She's working someplace else in the bank because we cared. It's bad news, but we took care of it. For our customers, we always do what's right. Integrity to our shareholders. Quarterly earnings aren't important. We will not do anything to make an earnings picture look brighter than it really is. We're caring. Okay, that's a big part of our statement. The caring for each other, we're givers, we're not takers. I don't come and take from you, your people, from your division, but we give. We never throw anybody under the bus when something goes wrong, and things go wrong. Every customer gets treated with dignity and respect. You're going to get the same greeting and the same time from me, whether you're a $30 million customer or you're a $300,000 customer, because they deserve it, that level of respect. We protect the value of the investment of the shareholders. We've talked about that. And for our communities, and this is the eco part of it, we focus on real social and civic needs rather than corporate recognition. You're never going to see Frost Bank Stadium, home of the Dallas Cowboys. Just not our thing. We encourage volunteerism. Tomorrow's Tuesday. My assistant from 11 to 2 is at Meals on Wheels. We have Meals on Wheels in San Antonio 7 days a week. We have volunteers for it. Everybody gets time off to do it. That particular charity, I mean, we're not tied to that one, but it can happen to anyone. So we allow people the chance to volunteer so that we can help in the communities that we do business in. We strive for excellence. All of you are familiar with the J.D. Power Awards. Everybody advertises, you know, I've won so many J.D. Power Awards. We've won a lot of J.D. Power Awards. Someone in marketing will probably give me the right number, but I'm guessing it's like 25 or 30 or something like that. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a plaque. And what it does, though, for us is it tells us if we're on the right track or not. It tells us if we're providing the excellence. If we're not outstanding, there's a reason why we're not outstanding, or if we've slipped, there's a reason why we've slipped, and we want to bring it back up. So the awards mean nothing to us other than they're a metric to help us see if we are maintaining a high level of excellence with our customers. If they're not rating us at the top, then we're not excellent. And we spend a lot of time trying to understand what it is, or if we've lost ground, how we've lost ground and how we can get back. Our customers, we spend a lot of time understanding their needs and values. We don't sell you a product. What we do is we sell you something that we think is the best solution for you by listening to you and you tell me. People always say to me, well, what do you do when you talk to a customer? I don't talk, I listen. Inevitably, the customer will tell me about their business, they'll tell me how they operate, they're going to tell me where they're going to go, and then I'm going to come up with ideas on how they can finance that. How you can use capital efficiently to meet your goals. So we make a lot of time understanding what they are. We don't go in and say, hey, we got this product at this price, you should take one. Not our style. We deliver sustained financial performance. Like I said, profitable, 148 years, never had a layoff. Not to say we haven't made business mistakes. I've told you about one division that we had to exit. We've exited 2 other businesses about 10 years ago because we didn't feel they were relationship businesses. One was a credit card business. There's no relationship with credit cards. All of you have credit cards. You don't carry it because of the bank that's issuing that card. You carry it because there's a benefit to it somehow beyond that. So there's no relationship with the bank and the credit card business. The other business that we exited 10 years ago, and it's now blown up, is the mortgage business, residential mortgage business. There was no relationship in the residential mortgage business. Who gave me the best terms, no down payment, lowest interest rate, whatever, that's who I went with. They didn't stay with that bank. They could care less. Matter of fact, the paper was usually sold 2 or 3 times. So none of that was important. It didn't create relationships for us, so we exited the business. Okay. I got my piece done. Thank you. I'm sure one of you smart people have something to ask me about. Do I have any Texans out here? You all fixing to be here? Huh? No? No Texans? Well, they won't admit it either. Oh, there we go, my man. All right, whereabouts? All right, all righty. You a Spurs fan? All right, you just won Spurs season tickets for 1 game. You get to use mine because I'm never there. Anybody want to go with him? There's 2. You got to take her up here. She's going to get you on Southwest. You go. I'm open. Just if you give me the question, I'll repeat it to the group, and then I'll give you the answer. Go right ahead. How did I get into banking? I actually got into finance, and I did an undergraduate degree in accounting here. I got my master's degree with more of a concentration in finance, when I went to work for NCR, which was one of my better decisions until they were acquired, I worked in a lot of variety of financial functions in Treasury, and of course interacted a lot with banks. And when NCR got acquired, I was the redheaded stepchild at AT&T, and a bank out west was looking to start an equipment finance group in one of their states. I was here in Ohio. It was October. It was 18 degrees. There was 6 inches of ice on the ground, and they offered me a job in Arizona. Hard decision. That's how I got into banking. But I was really doing the same functions in a commercial environment. But banking is, I'm going to be a little bit on a pulpit here. Banking is a very interesting business because banking, if you're in the lending side of banking, you have to have a wide sense of business because you're lending to a wide variety of companies and industries. So you have to know something about them all. And you have to understand business concepts well because some days you're lending to a manufacturer, some days you're lending to an oilfield services company, some days you're lending to a trucks wholesaler. You have to understand dynamics of business. Because remember, as I told you, I can't lose. I can only lose 0.8% of the time. So I got to understand these things before I give them money. I'm sorry, I didn't repeat that question, did I? Next question. Yes, sir.
Much of your time is split between working and recreation?
That's a good question. I'll tell you this. I don't know the specific answer to how much my time is spent between work and recreation, but I can tell you this, that I very much compartmentalize my life for deliberate reasons, because one, particularly work, runs way over into everything else. And when my children were young, that was a very difficult struggle, because I started getting in jobs that caused me to travel a lot. Now I'm in a job that travels even more. And I compartmentalize my life such that I try to leave Sunday after, my Sunday is my day. Do church things on Sunday morning, always. Sunday afternoon, I try to do something either for myself or with family. It's when I play golf. Of course, I only play golf 10 times this year, so I'm not good at that. But I did spend a lot of time with family and other activities. And what helps me compartmentalize is my wife. She schedules things. She says, okay, we're going over to see the boys' baseball game. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. When my son was in college, he played football at Tennessee. And so it was real easy for me to compartmentalize that part of it because I used to get to go to the games. But that was also a family gathering. And a lot of times, like my season tickets to games, I have Spurs and Mavericks and Cowboys and all these things. I use those as social meccas too. So I invite people in and we all do that. Try and do those kind of things together. So inevitably, well, I'll give you a real personal, and it's a long philosophy here. There's only 3 things you have to pay attention to in life. One is your health. Because always remember, without your health, you really have nothing. Okay? 2 is your work. Your work is what you do for a living, but it's also what you do in serving. You know, we all serve, and we serve God, we serve other bosses, and that's our work. And that's the 2 single biggest priorities you have in life. And then the 3rd would be how you make a living. If you don't bring 1 and 2 into balance, 3 is not going to work. Oftentimes they get out of balance, but you have others in your life sometimes that help you correct that one. Good question.
So, as college students and young professionals, how do you suggest we begin our research to find that living system that you're talking about that really lines up with our personal beliefs and personal philosophy?
Watch actions. The question was, how do you find a company that is a living asset company who will match your values and your thoughts of a culture? And you do research. And that's the only way you can do it. You can do personal experience, but you're going to have a lot of misses, and you're going to be unhappy. You know, you relocate to Atlanta because you think it's a cool company. You're all by yourself. The company's not so cool, and you're all by yourself. Big disappointment. You didn't know enough to research. The research isn't the social media. It's just laden with too much. You have to do it on your own. You're being trained to be here a critical thinker. So apply that.
I have a question.
Oh, please.
What advice do you have for us as students?
Very good question, because it's so open-ended and it's so loaded. So I'm going to make you ask it a little more specifically.
To be successful in any chosen career, any pathway that we intend to pursue, what should we do now to ensure success in it?
Well, first thing, the question is how can I do something that's going to ensure success? And each of you are different, and it's how you define success. I hope I've communicated to you the material things aren't success. So how am I going to be successful? Find something that you have a passion for, that you're going to have fun with, and you're going to work hard for. And then you'll be successful. It's not measured by material. One of my good friends is a Harvard-educated lawyer. I don't think he's ever made more than $50,000 in his life. And if you looked at him, you'd say, he seems semi-homeless in his appearance. What he is a deep intellectual. And he has written meaningful papers on environmental law and regulation that have been published all over the world. He's a success. You wouldn't know it to look at him. You wouldn't know it to, based on what he tells you he does, you wouldn't think twice of him. But he is very successful. Oh, yes, ma'am. Did I always want to be in business? Yes, I did. And I knew someone was going to ask me that question, so I thought about it. I had a paper route when I was 10. That was one of it. And at night, in my day, you could watch TV and you watch the evening news. And the evening news, they always ran the Dow Jones tickers on the bottom of the news. And I was always interested in that. I always remembered the numbers. So I always had sort of a passing interest in business. I was a little misguided because I thought that I could make a lot of money and be rich and be happy. I quickly realized that the material side of it wasn't important. So, good question. But you're going to be in business, let me just finish one point. You're going to be in business in a lot of different ways. Just because you're not working for a company, many people are in business, not-for-profit businesses, service organizations. They're not generated by P&Ls and income statements and the like. So, you're in business in different ways. Yes, sir.
What was your experience within the company working as president?
What was my experience? What got me to be president?
Yeah, you was some of the employees that you worked for.
I don't know, because there's a lot of good people who work for me, and sometimes I think they're better. Well, I know they're better than I am in many respects. What happens is, and this is the part that you have to think about for yourself, I'm a leader. If someone asks me what I study and what I do, I understand what's going on in finance. I know those things. What I really study as a student of business is leadership. If you ever come in my office and look at my iPad, you'll see loads of books on leadership, because that is what I always viewed myself as the leader. The fact that someone said, hey, you can be president, and by the way, you can be president of these other things, those are just recognitions for leadership. But I always felt I was a leader, and I view that as a very, very important role, and took that quite seriously. Yes, sir, in the back.
What's the hardest thing you've ever had to
was the hardest thing I've ever had to encounter in business. Hardest thing you do is you give bad news. And when you give bad news, I find that more times than not to be harder on me than it is on the people. Because in a case of, I talked to you about letting a division go, I told this to a group earlier, if people are unsuccessful and they're part of my organization, I view that as my fault. Because I interviewed you, I helped you put you in that position, or I didn't necessarily interview you, but I agreed to have you in that position, and somehow we mismatched that position with you, and you're not successful. And so I take it personally when something doesn't work. When a group didn't work out and we had to disband it, I just felt terrible about that, to the point where I was at times physically ill, because having to execute that, I felt was just kind of a failure, and I was letting people down. When you work for a company that has a culture like we do, and the culture is doing the right thing towards people, and being able to do whatever you like, that carries an immense amount of responsibility to do the right thing. You can't hide behind a procedure, you can't hide behind a policy, you have to do the right thing. And doing the right thing requires you to do a lot of soul searching, a lot of thinking, and a lot of calculation. And if it's difficult, it just takes something out of you. Yes, sir.
Are there any extracurricular activities or programs you would recommend?
Anything extra that I would recommend that you do in school? I'd recommend that you get as much diversity in your education as possible. Diversity, not just business is a science, so it tends to be a little narrower. Understand music, understand philosophy. Those things help. Add diversity to your life, do new things. Most importantly, keep open-minded. If you're open-minded, you see more opportunities. Yes, ma'am.
Over the years, I'm sure you've had to hire a lot of people. Going through this process, is there one interview candidate who stood out, and how did you do that?
The most impressive interview candidate I ever had was a fellow who is now in Rhode Island working for another company, and he's actually, through his son, started a little business. And what impressed me the most when he came to interview with me in Chicago was any of you from Chicago? Yes, okay. Well, you all know that in the downtown area of Chicago, the winds howl, and there's ice and snow. And it was January, and I was starting a whole new group of salespeople. And he came to the interview and I was staying in a hotel that was 2 blocks away. And just for me to get to the office 2 blocks away in one of these driving windy snowstorms was I thought, an accomplishment. His appointment was at 9 o'clock. He was there. He lived way on the north side of Chicago. I don't know how he got there. He shows up. His clothes are immaculate. His shoes are perfectly shined. I don't know how he did that. I mean, it's just slush. I don't know how he did it. And he showed up with a ton of enthusiasm. And battling all those elements, getting there on time, giving me a tremendous impression, and then exhibiting a lot of enthusiasm, I hired him. And he's successful today on his own. He never wanted to leave Rhode Island, so that was part of the problem. Yes, yes, sir. In looking at employees, does volunteerism matter? Yes, it does, because volunteerism reflects character. And character is everything when we hire people. If you contribute to your community or something that's not for profit, then that tells me you're more rounded than being a good student. And so that's an important element of what we do. When we hire people, we hire them for life. That's my starting point with everybody. We hire you for life. Now, we know people are going to leave. People get transferred, people decide to stay with family, reasons happen. But we try to hire people for life. but we want the character more than anything else. One more I'm allowed to take. Yes, sir.
So as a president, what kind of decisions are you allowed to make?
Literally everything. The question is, what can I do as a president? And in a company like mine, literally anything. I don't know of anything. I don't know of anything I can't do. And that may sound maybe a little arrogant, a little cocky. What it really is very humbling. Because on one year on Christmas Eve, I sent $10 million to Brazil. No way the bank was going to clear the money for 2 days. I had to, and we could have lost it. Naturally, it's in a foreign country. You can't bring it back. But I knew the people involved, and based on the character judgment, I sent the $10 million. It's just you have limits, but in our organization, as I told you, if people are doing the right thing, there's people behind them. So even at the lowest possible level, if you did something and it was wrong, you thought it was right, it's not held against you. There's one other question over here. No, yes, sir. Wow. One regret that I have. I don't know. Here's the one regret I have. When I came here to go to school, I was an arrogant, brazen, 6'1", 185-pound wide receiver. And I was convinced that this was just my stopping point before I got to the Dallas Cowboys. Well, there was a few people who played defense who came from northeastern Ohio who quickly dissuaded me from that plan. So my regret is that I shouldn't have tried as hard as I did to do something I wasn't capable of doing. However, I will tell you that to this day, I'm still 6'1".
If you're thinking that's a Halloween ghost, it isn't. Again, we want to thank you very, very much, Harry, for being with us. A reminder to students, if you have not signed in, you can do that on your way out so that your teachers know that you were here. And afterwards, if anybody wants to talk to Mr. Kaplan for a while, please feel free to do so. I want to thank our colleagues in the College of Arts and Sciences and the Jacobs program for helping us to support this program over the years, and also our deans, including our current dean, Dr. Paul Bobrowski. Harry, as a token of our appreciation, and token is the right word, we want to give you this painting of our chapel, just to give you a reminder that we've appreciated your presence and really enjoyed hearing of the values that you hold and those that your company holds. So hang it somewhere where you see it, okay? Thank you very much.